we're going to do. All right, we're going to open up the floor with questions from Clay Hall, WSYX Channel 6. Clay?
Good morning, Ryan. How costly is the injury to Cam Brown for you?
Yeah, it's very costly. Cam, came with experience this season and in a position that we couldn't afford to lose anyone. So to lose Cam, it's a significant hit. But obviously wish he gets a healthy procedure and healthy recovery. But really feel bad for Cam and his family.
Wisconsin just canceled their game with Purdue. Do you feel like every time you play, it's a victory?
Sort of. Yeah. It's week to week. It's day to day for sure. And you hold your breath all week. You hold your breath the day of. So yeah.
Thank you.
Next up, Spencer Holbrook, Lettermen Row. Spencer?
Well, one of the concerns going in was, the interior defensive line, replacing guys like, Chase on the outside, Devon Hamilton. So to see those guys play the way they did, that was big. I thought we really played well on both sides of the ball up front. But the defensive line really created a lot of disruption, and that was the difference, I think, in the game defensively.
All right, we'll go next to Austin Ward from Lettermen Row. Austin.
Ryan, when you watched the film on Saturday night, and we know it was a comfortable win, was there anything that you liked more than you thought leaving the field, or disliked more than you thought?
I thought the physicality of watching it and how hard we played was excellent. Even more so watching the film, I thought, that our running backs ran hard. I thought, on defense, we ran to the ball, we tackled, we hit hard. Our defensive line created a lot of disruption. So that was really good. There's just some things that we need to clean up, just some silly penalties, the snap over our head on the 1 yard line, missed field goals, were just ridiculous. Those are chip shots. So there's some things in the special teams that we got to clean up for sure. And just some different penalties here and there, a couple late hits, some were more egregious than others. And then, so I think when you look at that was kind of coming off the film, that's what we recognized.
That I feel like we've been talking about the potential for maybe some of those jet sweeps when Justin's under center and getting, whether it's Garrett or anybody else involved for over a year or so. What is it about that scheme, that play that you like, and what threat does that add to the offense?
Well, it gives us a perimeter run. JK was a little bit different back. And so this gives us a way to get the ball in the perimeter a little bit more. We used it with Paris Campbell a bunch a couple years ago. Garrett and Chris really have great speed to get the ball in the perimeter. And it's a great way to get it out there. But it only works at the tight ends and Chris comes down and cracks that safety. So the perimeter blocking is critical. Just gives us a different element, way to make the defense defend the entire field.
Thanks, Ryan.
Next up, Steve Hellwagon from 24/7 Sports. Steve?
Hey, Coach. Your defense did an outstanding job in the first half, 75 yards total offense, but it looked like 250 in the second half and 3 75-yard touchdown drives for Penn State. I don't know. I don't know that there's one-size-fits-all solution to what was the difference. It seemed like you guys were playing with a lead and maybe content to let them take some underneath stuff. But what was maybe different about what Penn State was able to do to you guys in the second half?
I think really the two big catches by Dotson, really Sean was right there on both of those plays. The kid just made a tremendous play, and that was a bunch of offense. I don't know, maybe 75 yards or something like that. I think that was really the biggest thing. They did hit some passes, and like you said, as it got later on, we started to soften up a little bit and kind of keep us in front of us. And they had some big plays. They made some plays, and that was good. They made a couple passes, but I really think the biggest difference was those two long passes, and the kid just made two tremendous catches. If that doesn't happen, the numbers aren't as strong, I don't think.
Have you guys had any kind of a audience with the Big Ten about what happened at the end of the half? It would seem the replay official in a situation like that ought to be able to grab a stopwatch and say that was 2.5 seconds and dispense with it. But I don't know what, any kind of audience with them or conversation.
Yeah, there was. I don't really want to get into the details of it all, but apparently there was more than 2 seconds on the clock, which I still don't understand. I didn't really get into it very much, and I'm just going to move on.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yep.
All righty, next up, we'll go to Bill Landis from The Athletic. Bill.
Ryan, you guys started playing with two tight ends a little more last year than a team has done in the past, and it seems like that's the case this year, if not more. And it also seems like you're throwing more when you have two tight ends on the field. I was just wondering if that was an emphasis for you guys coming in, or maybe how you wanted to see that kind of package with two tight ends expand this year.
Yeah, it's something we did last year, like you said. It's something that, we look at and try to figure out, what gives us the best opportunity to move the ball. And it could be with two tight ends. It could be with three wide receivers. And it kind of changes week in and week out. I think having, Rutgers and Luke on the field as two guys who have played a lot of football for us really helps us. I also think having Jameson on the field, having Jackson, Julian, those guys on the field gives us some big playability. So we just kind of look at it on a game-to-game basis, what gives us the best chance schematically, and then if that matches up with our personnel, then we go with it from there. And there's times in games where, it's working and you just keep going with it. So if it isn't, we kind of pivot to another area, but it's kind of a week-to-week.
And I was interested in your perspective as an offensive guy on some of the stuff your defense was doing against Penn State when you put, 6 or 7 guys up on the line and sometimes 5 will come, sometimes 3 will come. It's kind of, I don't know, pick your poison, I guess, when you ever get into situations. As an offensive coordinator, what are the difficulties in trying to ID that kind of stuff and figure out where the pressure might be coming from throughout a game?
Yeah, I thought we did a good job of mixing that up. I think there's two things. Once there's spacing in terms of where the guys are aligned, and secondly, there's personnel. So, you can overload certain blitzes, or you can get a matchup issue. You can get a big guy onto a running back, or you can get a guy like Barrett Browning on a running back, away from the slide. They have to make a decision on offense how they want to identify the spacing, but then they also the matchup. And, you can put them in kind of a bind right there, and they have to make a decision quickly on how they're going to protect it. Maybe you can get them schematically, or maybe you can just beat them with personnel. So it's a combination of those two things.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, next up, we'll go to Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
I think you're on mute, Bill. Can't hear you. No. So go on to the next one, I think.
All right, we'll come back to Bill. We'll go to Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch. Joey.
Ryan, how different is your schedule this week with having today off with election day? And how did you guys kind of like reconfigure practice schedule for this week?
Yeah, it's significantly different. We practiced yesterday, and today's off. So it's very different. That's kind of out of our routine, and we're just making it work. We really didn't do much on Sunday. We met Mick Ranham. We had our victory meal and get everybody out of here. Practice yesterday, had a good practice, really good practice, very spirited. And now the guys, have today to catch their breath, and then we'll just come back with a normal Wednesday on Wednesday.
And what did you think of having this day off in general across the country?
It's the same for everybody across the board. So we just have to handle it better than Rutgers. But it is what it is. I think just about all of our guys and coaches have already voted. It is what it is. But we're just going to handle it just hopefully better than our opponent.
And back to Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
Still can't hear him.
No.
That's all right. Just move on, he said.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Hey, Ryan, you mentioned that, you couldn't really afford to lose anyone at corner. So who are some of the guys behind Sean Wade and Sevin Banks who you guys really need to step up right now?
I think Tyreke Johnson has to step up. I think Ryan Watts has to step up. Hoping to get Legend back here, get him on the field. Marcus Williamson may have to do a little bit of that cross work just to be ready to go. So those guys are going to have to step up in a big way. Some of the younger guys, Cam Martinez, we're going to have to get those guys ready and play with some depth.
Looked like you guys had, Lathan Ransom there in the game a little bit at the end against Penn State as well. Is he a guy who's kind of making a push for playing time right now?
Yeah, he is. He can do some different things. He can play safety. He can play nickel. He's shown that he can. He came in the summer, didn't have preseason, so he was a little bit behind the 8 ball. But really, everybody was coming in because they didn't really have an off season with everything that went on this spring. But he's a younger guy who's really started to come on, and hopefully we can get some really good play out of him as we get towards the middle of November, early December.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, we'll go next to Nathan Barrett from Cleveland.com. Nathan.
Ryan, you mentioned the missed chip shots. Do you expect to be without Blake for a while? And is Jake Seibert an option at all for that spot?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how long it's going to be with Blake. If he'll be ready tomorrow or it's kind of a day-to-day thing. But yeah, Jake's definitely an option. He came here for a reason, and especially now with the rule where this year really doesn't count, he's definitely an option.
And same with Luke Farrell. Do you expect that to be a long-term situation? And what does it mean, even though you've got other capable tight ends, to maybe if he has to come out of that rotation even for a short amount of time?
Yeah, I know we got a good room there, a lot of depth. So if Luke's not able to go, then we have guys who are capable right behind him.
All right, we'll go next to Dave Biddle from 247 Sports. Dave.
Hi, Ryan. How do you feel like Seven and Sean Wade are performing as a starting corner so far?
I thought they played well. Dotson made some really good plays, but on those 2 long ones, I thought Sean was right there. The kid just made 2 remarkable catches, and that's part of playing corner. And they're going to make some catches on you, but overall, I thought the first 2 games they played well. I think there's some things maybe they'd like to have back in the last game, but overall, we're getting solid play out of them. And I think if they just keep growing and keep working, and they're in those spots and keep covering like that, they're gonna get some balls. They're gonna have their fair share of shots to make interceptions and PBUs. So just keep building, and each year you get to see how you're gonna get attacked differently. And so go back to the film and figure out how teams are trying to attack us this year, and learn from it and grow, and just get stronger as the season goes on.
And you mentioned Tyreke Johnson earlier, former 5-star recruit, just in his third year sophomore. What does he need to do better, and what do you like about his game?
Well, he's been here for a while, and he has experience. He knows the defense. He's got a good feel for where he needs to be on the field, and so yeah, just consistency, and I think now that we don't have Cam, he's going to have to really step up.
Thank you.
Next up is Doug Lemarese from Cleveland.com. Doug.
Ryan, I don't know if this will be an easy one to answer. There are lots of great assistant coaches, and I assume most assistant coaches would like to be a head coach someday. But I also think there probably are some guys who are great assistants, and maybe they're better at that. There are some guys who are great head coaches and are maybe better head coaches than they were assistants. What is it? What's the difference? What characteristics do you maybe see in guys of like, hey, this guy is a great assistant, but I see this in him that, man, I think he can be a great head coach. We know the job's different, but what are the key components that are different?
That's a good question, Doug. It's probably a long answer. I think there are a lot of different styles, probably, of leadership in terms of being a head football coach. I think there are some guys who really aren't offense, really aren't defense. They just sort of manage the whole operation. They do a great job recruiting, and they coach the coaches. Then I think there's, the coach who really is, heavy on the offensive side. And then there's the coaches who are heavy on the defensive side. And I think the thing that no matter what you coach or how you do it, you have to understand how to motivate everybody in the building, how to show that you care about them, and have the strength to lead every day and multitask. And I think that's, communicating is critical. And I can't really say there's like one thing to say, well, that guy would be a great head coach, because Certainly sometimes it's the situation, it's the circumstances for which, you're in. But hiring a good staff is critical. And certainly the culture that you building a vision and then being able to see it through and being strong, being able to handle adversity, and having a really good plan of where you want to go, being able to see around corners, and having confidence. Those are some of the things. They're not all of them, but without, being able to spend an hour talking about it, those are just, kind of a snapshot and some thoughts.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
All right, we will go next to Patrick Murphy, 247 Sports. Patrick.
Ryan, you and Greg spent a few years together here, Shiano, that is. He talked about your relationship yesterday on his press conference, but I'm just curious, things you learned from him. Obviously, he spent time as a head coach before. What was your few years like when you were working with Greg?
Yeah, first off, when we first got here, just a lot of respect for the way he went about his business every day. And then, when everything went down that summer, leading into, taking over for those first 3 games in the preseason, he was a huge help to me. Just a great resource, really helped me in terms of just navigating through that preseason in the first 3 games. So forever in debt for him for that. And then just watching the way he, really just coached the coaches. He, he's a relentless recruiter, really good communicator. Again, can see the issues that are coming down the road, can get out in front of things really well. And so, when you combine all those things, there's a lot to learn from there. And it's no surprise. You can already see, how well things are going at Rutgers, how, that team looks. And, I think he's going to build something really good there.
I was going to follow up with that. Obviously, some transfers in at Rutgers, but a different team this year with him kind of leading things and how he's doing things. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the team, the first game, they beat Michigan State pretty soundly. So that's, significant right off the bat. And then when you watch them on both sides of the ball, they're playing hard. He's brought in some different talent in there, and they're playing, with some energy. They're playing tough, playing smart. So you can already see the impact that he and his staff are having. So, even this week, I mean, we got to make sure that we're on top of our game. This team would want nothing more than come in and, get this game into the fourth quarter. So we got to do a great job recognizing, the challenge that they provide in all 3 phases and playing, as fast as we possibly can. We got to continue to play like we did in the Penn State game, physical, with energy and fast. And the big message has been this week, how can we do things better? How can we practice better? How can we coach better? How can we teach better? How can we listen better? How can we protect ourselves from this virus better? How can we sleep better, eat better? Everything has to be better. If we want to be great, that's what we have to focus on. If we just want to be just another team, then just to continue to do what we're doing. But if we want to be great, we got to clean all these things up. We got to get better in all those areas. And if we add that all up at the end of the week, we'll keep growing to get better. So I went off on a tangent there, but that's some thoughts that are going through our head as we get into this week and we play Rutgers. But a big challenge with Greg and Rutgers coming in here.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All right, next up, Tony Gerdeman, Buckeye Scoop. Tony.
Ryan, after watching that film, what did you think of Jonathan Cooper's performance?
Really good, really disruptive, played hard. And there was one clip where I think he took the tight end and just knocked him in the backfield. He was disruptive. He played like a guy who was dying to play, a month ago that didn't have football. He played hungry, played with passion, and it was cool to see, somebody with the block O on his chest play as hard as he did, and that was really awesome. And in such a big game for us, I'm proud of the way Coop played.
Then I guess on the opposite end of that, what did you think of your red zone offense? Failed to score touchdowns 3 times in there. What kind of went wrong?
Yeah, I thought we did some good things down there. I thought the big thing early on was getting those couple hard runs in there. Penn State does a good job in the red zone. We get the ball all the way down to the 1. The ball gets snapped over our head, and then we still find a way to score a touchdown during that time. That was like almost scoring twice. Then we score again, and we get moved back on a penalty. We missed the fade to Garrett, which broke my heart. So I mean, I think we did some really good things down there. Penn State's very good in the red zone. So, overall, I thought it was good. I mean, I think if we make those couple chip shots at the end of the game, it was more about eating up the clock than it was trying to score. Was it perfect down there? No, but I thought it was good, and we can keep getting better down there.
All right, next up, Craig Mertz from the Associated Press. Craig.
Hi, Ryan. Just in general, you played in an empty stadium at home and on the road. Just your thoughts. Is there really a home field advantage in college football anymore?
I think going on the road, there's just a lot of distractions now, probably more than ever, just because of how different it is to travel. There's just different things you have to go through. The buses are all spread out. The plane ride's a little bit different. Getting to the hotel, there's just not as much group activity. It's a lot really spread out in terms of your own rooms. You dress in the hotel, locker rooms. So it's just very, very different, and it just changes your routine. Being on the field and playing in the game without a crowd is very, very different for sure. I don't think it's the same. But they do pipe in a ton of noise. I don't know. It's probably not. The games I see on TV, you don't feel that, but there's 90 decibels going on in the game. Sometimes it's louder than being in a stadium. It's very, very difficult to communicate. And I don't know, if that really shows on during the game when you're watching it on TV. But trying to, turn up to 90 decibels in your house and try to communicate with somebody with a mask on, it's virtually impossible. I mean, it's really hard. And then it's banging around in the stadium because there's no fans to absorb the sound. So it's still not easy, but it's very different than having 105, 107,000 people in the stands.
Can I just follow up, Ryan? Do you think they should reduce it? Is that 70 or 90? Is that too loud then for trying to communicate?
Well, I think it's very hard. I think they limit the amount of people that are actually on headsets to graduate assistants and full-time coaches. So if you're trying to communicate to anybody other than that, and they have the crowd noise up to 90. The only time that the rule is it's at 70 when the center's over the ball. So any other time they can crank it up to 90, which is very, very hard to communicate. So, I mean, it is what it is. That's what was agreed upon, but it's a major challenge.
All right, we will go now to Bill Rabinowitz from Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
Can you hear me now? I hope so.
Yeah, we got you, brother.
Thank you. Sorry. It's kind of a tough question for you to answer, I'm sure, and you maybe addressed it a couple questions ago. But the idea, Penn State we knew was going to be perhaps your toughest test. Obviously, you've got Michigan at the end. You've got Rutgers, a huge underdog. You've got a stretch here. How do you keep your guys from getting complacent and taking, just taking a deep breath? How do you fight that?
Well, it's what we want. Is just, do we want to be great? And if we do, then we have to bring it every week. And we know that, but it's just a matter of what do you want as a team? Do you just want to be average, or do you want to be great? Or do you want to be just pretty good? And if we're chasing greatness, if that's what we really want to be, then every day we should be going after this thing 100 miles an hour. And it doesn't matter who we're playing. It shouldn't matter. It's more about us. And that's what we're chasing right now. And we're not there. We're not close. So we got to prove it. And it's all three phases. And hopefully we get close at some point. But right now we got a long way to go. And so every time we get out there on Saturday, it's an opportunity to show the nation that we're close to being great. But we're on a journey right now, and we're not great right now. So I think that's what we got to understand the challenges, and we got to keep chasing it.
And one more question about the defensive line, particularly the interior guys and Tommy Togiai had 3 sacks, and obviously sacks are often a group effort. But what does he give you, especially considering that was a question mark coming into the year?
Well, he's given us a lot already, a lot of play, a lot of disruption, a lot of tackles. And he had 7 tackles in a game, 3 sacks. A lot of production. And then Haskell coming in and being able to play with some depth there has been huge. And I think that this group is a little bit different, and we got a lot of guys who can play. And when Larry's sending in different guys and keeping them fresh and keeping that snap, count in that 30, 40 range, it really shows. We can roll fresh guys in there. And so, we'll play as many guys that we think have the opportunity to play at a championship level. And so, yeah, I mean, Tommy's been big for us, and hopefully we can keep building on it.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
All right, got time for one more questioner. We'll go with Brendan Gulick from Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated. Brendan.
Coach, I want to piggyback off something you talked about here earlier. A lot of differences with the travel. You referenced the busing situation, the planes, different hotel rooms, all that stuff. Are you comfortable now that you've gone through it and it's more than just seeing it on paper? Are you comfortable with what the Big Ten has put in place? And are you willing to share anything that, maybe you'd like to see even altered moving forward here?
Well, I think we've done a really good job in-house of the testing and making sure that everybody who's in the travel party is tested. I think we've done a good job of de-densifying the buses, done a really good job on the planes. The flight personnel are not allowed to walk up and down the aisles. We have a lot of protocol in place there. I think we did a good job at the hotel. We were able to secure the entire hotel and really limit the exposure there. So when you start to go through all those things, I think we did as good a job as you could do. But it's just like anything else, if one person gets it and exposes others, that's where it can get out of hand. And we just cannot stop focusing on that. And we have to continue to assume that everybody on the team, every coach, every person has it. And if you continue to wear your mask, if you continue to distance yourself the best you can, it gives you the best chance. But, we test the game of, I think it's right before noon. And then, make sure that everybody in that travel party, everybody's going to be in that locker room at that moment right there, that night is negative. And that gives us peace of mind, obviously, moving forward. So we'll keep working, keep learning about it, and try to do the best we can. But it is day to day.
You also talked about the team's desire to want to be great as opposed to be average, but that you still feel you have a long way to go. Can you enlighten us a bit on the general level of focus, the attention to detail? Are you pleased with where they are from that perspective?
I thought the way we played on Saturday, it was excellent. I did. But just so many things that we need to grow upon, clean up. Some guys in there who really are doing it for the first time. And so there's so many opportunities. There's so much meat on the bone. And I thought we started off good yesterday, but it's got to continue through the end of the week. We just got to keep working to get better and just becoming pros at our craft. Taking meetings to the field and understanding that now as the season goes on, defenses and offenses and special teams, they're going to start adjusting. So, we have to change things up. And then with limited reps, we got to be able to put it on the field at a high level and then have competitive excellence. And so I think some guys are doing a little better job than others. And we'll just keep getting better and keep coaching. That's what this thing's all about. It's not about who's the best team at the beginning of the year. It's who's the best team at the end of the season. And so that's it. And again, we didn't really have much of a preseason, didn't have spring ball. So this is a huge opportunity for us to grow, to get better. And Saturday is a huge opportunity to take the next step. So that's what we'll be focused on.
Hey, Ryan, relative to that testing issue, can you give us any clarity on what happened with Justin Hilliard on Saturday and how that fits into what the protocol is that you guys use?
Yeah, so Justin got a false positive. He then took a PCR, and that was confirmed that he was negative. But the way that the Big Ten protocol is that he was still not allowed to play, which is about as heart-wrenching as you could imagine. And so we talked about it before the game as a team, that we're going to keep Justin in the back of our mind. We're not really sure, why that happened to him, but maybe that was some sort of intervention or whatever. But we felt awful for Justin, and I know it's something that is being discussed and continually be discussed. Try to figure out ways to make it better, but that was the policy that was in place, and so I know the Big Ten's continually talking about it and try to figure out what's the best thing moving forward.
All right. Thank you for your time today, Coach. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
And we'll be joined by Coach Kerry Coombs in just a couple minutes. So hang tight. All right, Coach Combs, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate your time.
Sure. How you guys doing?
We will we'll start with Jared Smalley. Jared, you're up.
Hi, Kerry. Ryan talked about this a few minutes ago. Sometimes you just have to tip your cap to the opponent when they make a remarkable play, and obviously Dotson had a few of those moments Saturday night. When you go back and review the tape of the game, how do you view that difference of the great plays he made versus what your guys did in coverage against him?
Yeah, I think that he did make some great plays. We would like to win every one of those battles. You know, the 50-50 balls, the 2 straight on Sean down the sideline late in the game. And Sean got his hands on the first one, and the kid caught it with one hand, and then obviously the second one, I thought there was a push off there, but that's neither here nor there. We got to play ball, and he caught it with one hand again. So I thought those 2 catches were really, really a credit to him. And then I think that we have to play better on some of the other inward breaking routes where he caught passes, and I believe we will.
And Kerry, about that, you know, you think of a player like Sean, it takes a certain self-confidence to even try to play that position with what's required. Do you expect those guys to rally this week? You know what I mean? I would imagine they're probably up to the challenge, but what's the mentality of a player like that when you go through some tough moments?
Well, if you're going to play corner, and particularly if you're going to play corner at Ohio State, you have to have a short memory. You have to understand that by the nature of the defense, there's going to be pressure on you every single down, and you've got to step up and make plays. I have no doubt about their confidence or their ability to do that job, but I also understand, having been here for a long time in the nature of how we're going to play football, that those things are going to, they're going to throw those balls, and they're going to catch a few sometimes. And just got done. I talked to Sean and Seven both about, I just got done spending 2 years in the league where they caught balls on us. That happens. They have good players, and good players make good plays.
Ready? And just so we can get through as many people as possible, if he's limited to one question, we'll go to Stephen Means from Cleveland.com. Stephen.
Hey, Kerry, just back on Sean. I know he's your best defensive back in that room, but this is still his first year playing outside corner at the college football level. He spent most of his time inside. Just through 2 games, and he's had some good moments and some bad moments. Could you just maybe evaluate how he's played?
Yeah, I wouldn't characterize any of the moments as bad moments. I think that that's part of playing corner at Ohio State and having situationally plays that you're going to have to compete on and contest balls. I don't know what we would say relative to the first game we would be referring to, but I have no worries about Sean Wade.
All righty, we'll go next to Dave Biddle from 247 Sports. Dave.
Hi, Kerry.
Hi, Dave.
What does Tyreke Johnson do well? That's a young man that you recruited. So what does he do well? What are you happy about when you look at Tyreke? And what does Tyreke need to do better to get more playing time, especially now with Cam Brown being out?
Yeah, conversations about what players need to do better are best had with the players, and that's where I'll have those conversations. But Tyreke is what he does well is he plays very hard every day in practice. He studies the opponent. He prepares himself to play, and he will do that this week, and obviously be prepared to go out there and play and hold up the standard of the unit.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go to Tim May from Lettermen Row. Tim, you're up.
Hi, Kerry. I hope you can take a little bit of a compliment here, but I thought you called, or y'all called Saturday night's game with a professional, almost an NFL flair from the standpoint of mixing it up and stuff. And just as you look back on that game, what did you like about the way the mix you guys had from a defensive standpoint, from blitzes to coverages and other things?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I thought that the guys on the staff did a really nice job of formulating plans to stop the run primarily. Obviously, that was very important, that we had some different schemes in the run game. And then I thought they did a really nice job of putting together a package for the third downs. I thought on third down we were really good combination of pressure and coverage and being able to do some things to kind of keep them from being comfortable in the pocket. And the staff worked really hard on putting those things together. It's a great tribute to them and what they did getting ready for the game. That's a good offense, and I thought they did a really nice job.
Was that a product more of knowing your personnel better from the previous week, or was that just a product of being together one more week?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things, Tim. I think one is we knew our opponent better because we really didn't have a good feel for what Nebraska was going to do going into that opener. You know, you have an idea, but you don't know. And I felt like we had a much better idea of seeing this year's players and this year's offense from Penn State, which gave us a chance to plan a little bit more. And you know, obviously having these guys on the staff having played Penn State, and they know what those games are like and what their strengths are of their personnel, having a lot of good information from them about how to put the plan together to try to take away the things that they did best.
Thanks, man.
We'll go next to Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch. Joey.
Kerry, where do you feel the absence of Cam Brown being sidelined will kind of hurt you guys or affect you guys the most?
Well, I think anytime you lose good players, it's going to affect you, and other players have to step up. You know, the whole next man up thing is no joke, and especially this year. I think we've been training our guys from June for the possibility of having to be able to play in a game suddenly. And I think that's really important, you know, to try to prepare them for that. We had that same situation Saturday before the game, where all of a sudden you're going to be thrust in a role, and the team is going to be depending on you, and so you're going to have to be able to step up and fill in. And so in the secondary room right now, that's what it's all hands on deck. Everybody has to understand that their role may change slightly for this week's game. It may change for the next 5 weeks' games. And you have to, and you better be prepared to play more than one position in the back end, because there's going to be moving parts as we go through a season like this.
All right, we'll go next to Austin Ward, Lettermen Row. Austin.
Hey, Kerry.
Hi, Austin.
For an amateur like me, when you're talking about guys filling in and playing multiple positions, it seems at times like Josh Proctor is doing some things that at least look corner-like. Is he someone that is going to be key to, filling in here with Cam out?
Yeah, what I would say is he's key, period. But you're not wrong in that he has played in a variety of spots on the defense because he has versatility. And the reality is, Austin, they all need to have that. It's not a year where you can say, well, we've got these 3 or 4 guys that play corner and that's all they do, and these 3 or 4 guys that play the post safety, and these guys that play the cover safety, and that's just all we're going to do. It's just that's not feasible this year. So Proc has done a great job of being able to learn and fill in different capacities week to week. And a lot of other guys are preparing themselves to do that as well.
Thanks, Kerry.
Sure.
All righty, we'll go next to Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
Yes, Kerry.
Hi, Bill.
You obviously coach with Greg Schiano. Could you kind of describe your relationship and just what it's going to be like to go against him? Does that, the familiarity with him and how he thinks, does that help? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really like Greg, first of all. I think he's an outstanding football coach. I think he's a better man. He's a good husband. He's a good father. I really like Greg and learned a lot of football from Greg when he was here at Ohio State. Got to compete against Greg way back in the old Big East and learned to, dislike him when he was coaching the other team. And he's a guy that what the stamp that you see already on that program is those kids are playing hard now. They're playing hard. They're playing with discipline, and he's done a remarkable job. I think in probably any new coach, new staff in a situation like we've had this offseason is even harder. And I just think he's done a great job. As far as familiarity is concerned, I think that works both ways. And I think there's a lot of familiarity staff to staff going into the game plan. And I think you have to take that into account, obviously, and knowing how people like to attack different things offensively and defensively, that would be information that would be helpful.
Thanks, Terry.
All right, we'll go next to Dan Hope from 11 Warriors. Dan.
Hey, Kerry, you guys don't have a ton of veterans at cornerback with Cam Brown out. What are you seeing from a freshman like Ryan Watts, Cam Martinez, Lathan Ransom so far?
Right, I'm seeing growth. That's a process, as you guys know, and the disappointing thing, of course, is not having had spring ball or really training camp with those guys makes it a little bit more challenging for them. So their learning curve gets accelerated another notch beyond just being a freshman at Ohio State. But I love those kids. They're working hard. They're preparing themselves to play. As I've explained to all of them, they are going to be needed during the course of this season. And so, they're preparing as if they're going to play every day because they are. And so we're getting them ready.
Thanks, Kerry.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up is Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com. Nathan.
Kerry, you just mentioned a couple minutes ago, and other coaches have as well, about how you prepared for this, the idea of depth and guys being ready quickly. I assume that's kind of the case year in and year out, though. What was different about this year's preparation, either in the way that you approached, I guess, reps in practice, or is it just something in the mindset? How was this year's preparation different?
To be honest with you, Nathan, I think it's dramatically different. I think because you can't guarantee yourself that your players are all going to be there on Saturday evening. And because you can't, then you better have contingency plans, right? You better have a thought process. If you get 3 false positives in the same unit going into kickoff, well, what are you going to do? You can't just say, hey, we're going to call timeout. We don't have any players. So that I do think is much different than it's been in any year that I've ever been a coach. And so it's not just about coaching guys for depth, but now it's also about coaching guys for depth and versatility, which I think is important.
We got time for 2 more. We will start with Bill Landis and then finish with Tony Girdman. So, Bill, you're up.
Hey, Kerry, it looks like you guys are playing maybe a little more quarters or maybe some 2-man. I think I saw last week, more split safety stuff than there was last year. Just what does that give you, and what were you looking maybe to build upon with what was already in place when you arrived?
Yeah, I think that the structure of the defense is remarkably similar to last year's defense. I do think you're accurate in seeing some of the changes in the back end, but I think that those are changes that are designed to try to supplement the base package and maybe target taking away some things that the offense does really well in certain formats.
And we'll finish up with Tony Girdman from Buckeye Scoop. Tony.
Kerry, you're talking about the need for versatility. What has Lathan Ransom done to get into that mix a little bit, which is impressive considering he's such a late arrival?
Right. Yeah. I really like him. I like all of them. I mean, Lathan is a run and hit guy, and run and hit guys always end up playing football. And he's a sharp kid. He's very committed to learning, and as they all are. And so he just found himself as having been a guy who's been getting some of that work in certain spots where all of a sudden we needed somebody. And so I'm telling you, Tony, it is really next man up. And that's the way you have to prepare them. And so it could have been Lathan, it could have been Ryan, it could have been any freshman. All of a sudden, that happened to be the role where they were getting some work this week in practice. Boom, you got to go. And I thought he did a really nice job for the few plays that he was in there. And I would expect that he'll continue to have his role increase as the season goes on.
Thank you.
All right, Coach. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, guys. It's really fun seeing all of you in these little screens, just by the way.
Thanks, Kerry.
Thanks, Kerry.
No problem, Kerry.
Good afternoon. How we doing, guys?
All right, Coach Wilson, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to lead it off with Jeremy Birmingham from Lettermen Row. Jeremy.
Hey, Kevin. Wondering on the recruiting trail, how much different it is for you as a recruiter to sell the total development of a tight end as opposed to just the usage in an offense? Because clearly Jake, Jeremy, Luke, those guys have all turned into a really good group of tight ends, complete tight ends, but they still may not catch a ton of footballs. How do you work that in on the recruiting trail?
Well, I mean, I think from a stat perspective and from media coverage, when the only time you talk about a tight end is when they catch or drop a pass. They had 117 snaps of offensive play the other night, which is pretty good. We were flexed out quite a bit. Now, that being said, too, every time that Jeremy flexes in a slot, you take a great player like Jackson or Garrett or somebody off the field or Chris Olave. Now, sometimes with depth, you got to rotate around, but we have taken a lot of pride in the way that group has developed. Every senior that's played here is in the NFL, or has played in the NFL. Rashad's active right now for the Patriots. Marcus Ball has been playing significantly for the Redskins. So prior to that, I think my background probably showed that we got tight ends in the NFL. And I think the best thing when you put the tape on and you look at our tight ends compared to some other tight ends, you see guys that actually block people and put their face on people. They're really good at the point of attack. They're really good backside. They're excellent pass protection. And the other day, the ball got our way and we got, 6 catches and actually had 1 drop. Jeremy needed to be a little bit cleaner on another route, and we had another catch. So I was happy personally for them, but I'm proud of them. It's a good group. And Jeremy, all we do is we show tape. I had a great practice tape from 3 weeks ago that on a Zoom call, I showed a couple recruits 39 clips of practice between blocking fundamentals, perimeter blocking fundamentals, pass pro, one-on-one routes, and the plays we threw to the tight end. And I showed I said, look, this is 39 plays specifically to training you. And I think it was very influential in some of these kids seeing how we develop the player. And Coach Marotti is the best at anyone developing those players too, Jeremy, which helps a ton.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll go next to Brendan Gulick from Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated. Brendan.
Hey, Kevin. Hey, Ryan and Kerry both talked a lot today about, really embracing the next man up because there's been injuries, obviously the unfortunate circumstance with Justin Hilliard this week. So I'm curious, even if it's not specifically within your tight end group, is there somebody on this offense that has really blown you away with their ability to put their ego aside and buy into, hey, I'm going to do what the team needs because the goal is to win games?
I think there's a lot. One, just from the commitment of the way these guys train year round and what we've been through this year and dealing with COVID and trying to stay healthy, continue to develop physically as you're lifting and training on your own, and young players are missing spring practice and preseason time, and how to develop and be where we need to be. You see a lot of these young receivers are playing, not to be on a tight end deal, but I mean, you got a guy, where I might catch a lot of balls, a lot of guys will hit the portal. I'm watching the first 2 games, Jeremy Rutgers has had his physical blocking and is as good at knockout blocks as anyone on the whole offense. And here was a touted receiver who played flexed out, spread out, tight end as a high school guy. So in my room, I got a lot of respect for he and Luke Farrell and their time and effort. I think Coach Stubb would tell you the same with those offensive linemen and the sacrifices that Josh and Wyatt and Thayer, that Thayer's been through coming through his injury. But the other night, Chris Olave gets a lot of tout the first play of the game. He makes the biggest block on the longest run of the day. And when your best receiver is making the best, maybe the most critical block, I think that says a lot just of the culture. So I think we got a lot of guys that make those sacrifices, and I just got a lot of respect and appreciation for the talent, but the way they buy into the brotherhood of our program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next up, Patrick Murphy from 247 Sports. Patrick.
Hey, Kevin. You guys got Master going in the last game, at least statistically. Trace had a solid game, but not the same numbers. When you're looking at how you want to use those guys, how you want to get each guy going, have we seen that yet, or is it still kind of a work in progress how the 2 guys can get going, maybe in the same game, or are you still figuring that out?
I think I don't know if we're figuring it out. I think every game's maybe a little, I guess, different with the flow of the opportunity and how many plays you get or how long the drives go. And, the longer the drive, like, I think it was our fourth drive became a very long drive. And as the game went along, we had some longer drives. And so I think the longer the drive, the more the guys play within a drive. When you either go 3 and out or score quickly, maybe only one guy goes, then the defense goes, and then maybe the next guy goes next. And if you score, go 3 and out again, all of a sudden it seems like you haven't seen a guy for a quarter. If you have longer drives, those guys get in the game. So I think sometimes the game dictates that. I think Coach Jofford has a lot of confidence. I know when Coach Day and we're putting together calling, we don't change a lot of calls based on who the tailback is. A couple times the other night, hey, give me so-and-so, but give me Trey, give me Master. But, Steele had a good first game. Steele played as well as those guys the first 2 games. Didn't maybe have a lot of opportunity last game. I still think you keep seeing those 3 guys. And I don't think it's going to be a negative. I think the more they play, I think missing preseason, missing some of the contact, I think as they play through contact and get more confident, they'll continue to be more decisive, more assertive with their reads. They'll pick up more trash yards where 3s go to 5 because they're playing more velocity, more confidence, and they're seeing the schemes. So I think the more we go live, and right now a lot of the live stuff, there's a little bit of practice, but it's really the game. I think we played through that, and I think you saw them better game 2, and I think you'll see them better as we go into game 3 and keep going.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Colin Hass-Hill from 11 Warriors. Colin.
Kevin, I know this is it's a smaller play in the grand scheme of things, but I think you guys have called 4 quarterback sneaks in the last 2 games, and they've all been successful. And I know you called one in the opener against Nebraska on your side of the field. So I was wondering, from your guys' perspective as a coaching staff, why are you so confident in that play to get those small little yards?
I think we're kind of picking the spots of where and when and the timing. I think those inside players are very strong. It can definitely get off the ball and surge it. I think, because we run, I think some stretch plays and stuff, but it's kind of maybe hard for the defense to always get heavy internally because we'll go under center and the ball still gets stretched outside. So they pack everyone inside. So I think it's maybe hard for the defense always to load it up. But Justin's good at it. He manages the snap. I think the hardest thing about the quarterback sneak is the snap, because that center's firing off the ball, and especially when the shotgun's so much, Justin is very comfortable under center. He manages the snap well, and you're going behind Josh and Wyatt and Harry and some strong guys. So I think a combination of a lot of things. The ball can get outside. We're good inside. Justin's, pretty good at it right now. We'll keep using it as we need it, and we're not trying to be, smart. Those are still hits on the quarterback, so it's got to be smart when and how we do it.
Appreciate it.
All right, we'll go next to Rob Aller from the Columbus Dispatch. Rob, you're up.
Mic check.
All right, looks like Rob's having some audio problems. We'll try Stephen Means, Cleveland.com. Stephen.
Hey, Kevin, just back on the recruiting thing a little bit. When you see, I know you guys can't have guys on campus, but to see guys take maybe an initiative and maybe take their own steps and making sure that they get all the information they need, even if they have to do things on their own. For you as a coach, when you see players take that initiative, just your thoughts on that.
One, it shows, one, you worry right now just with safety, with guys coming and traveling and the cross-pollination as they, come from different parts of the country. And if they're doing, right now we're urging our fans to watch games separately. So I know kids want to get on campus or see a campus. Right now, we had conversations with my youngest child last night about a couple schools he's looking at, because his season now ended Friday night. Hey, you don't have school on Tuesday and Wednesday. Or Wednesday, Thursday, where do you want to go? Do you want to go see a school? And so I think right now, and we're going to be dead in recruiting. Me as a coach, one, and then me as a parent, two. You're dead recruiting through December. There's an early signing period coming up. Some of these kids are 22 guys. They've got time. I think the old guys are just wanting to feel a part of the camaraderie and a part of the group, and they don't get to come to games like they used to, and they get these friendships going in the season. So I think they want to get together. We don't encourage that because we are leery of the spread of the virus. But with other guys that hadn't been committed, I think guys just want to see a campus. They just want to get on campus and just see what it looks like. And of course, here the best thing is about being on campus is interacting with people. And right now we got to do it via the media or via the internet and Zoom and the FaceTime calls and all that stuff. So you don't get the face-to-face. That's the hard thing recruiting. But it's nice they want to get together. I think it's part of the things that kids are dealing with. Some of these kids feel like they're missing out on things, and we want to encourage them to do things, but we got to follow the rules and the guidelines, and we got to, more than anything, stay safe and take care of each other. So that's the way we're kind of embracing it with the kids when we're talking about those things that they want to see a place.
Thanks. Next up, Bill Landis from The Athletic. Bill.
Hey, Kevin, what does it do for you guys when you can play with two tight ends as often as you do and play big but not lose your ability to throw the ball down the field when you are playing big?
Yeah, and some of that, those guys get out there in the pass game. A lot of times they're involved in protection, so you can max up some things, heavy play action, move the pocket with some of the play actions. The other night, the big guys in the field, but we're hitting some of the receivers in the flat with some of the nakeds and bootlegs that we do. It's just and it's nice to have receivers that you can put in the game and still block. So it's nice to play small and run the ball, and it's nice to go big and throw the ball, because to me that's when you have balance. You don't get zeroed in. This personnel grouping's on the field, they never throw the ball. This personnel group's on the field, they always throw the ball. So I think the more we keep having balance, that's why we keep challenging our young receivers to continue to embrace the knowledge of not just being a great receiver, but playing without the ball and playing for your brother and being a great blocker. And I think the more our guys buy into that, the more diverse we get, the more guys get touches, the more guys get on the field. Bill, I think the harder it is to defend someone.
Thanks. All right. Next up, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
Yeah, Kevin, I was hoping you could give assessments of the two new guys in the offensive line, Harry Miller and Nick. What do you think of how they've played so far?
Very encouraged. They're very talented players. They're young. They're very, very smart men. I mean, they're very intelligent guys. Not to get into Harry's Russian literature thoughts, but they're very, very smart guys. I really appreciate the way Harry, from game one to game two, probably made as much improvement as anyone on our offense. I think, again, like we're talking about those running backs, I think the more you play, the more comfortable you get, the more confident you get. I thought he really held his own. And we were playing, I thought, a strong front. Looking at the first game of Penn State's defense, I thought they created a lot of havoc up front. And then to go into that game and Nick handling the edge, I think Penn State actually moved number 18, Shaka, over to his side, I think, and thought they might get pick on him. And Nick held his own, had no pressure. So very impressed with Nick and the way he's grown and matured, and really great to see Harry get off to a good start and really make take a pretty good first drive, but really play really well against a great opponent. And it's unfortunate the fans weren't there, because that would have been much, much more challenging for the offensive line with crowd noise and snap count and communication. So in some ways we played a great opponent. We got a little bit of a pass with crowd noise, but other than that, very, very proud of those two guys, and they're playing as good as the vets right now. They're holding their own, a big part of what we're doing.
Do you expect Luke Farrell to be back soon?
Yes. He just had a gash. He actually came back and played in the game. He played the last two series. He was back Saturday, so he practiced. He's practiced. We'll be smart with him. Just we don't need it to continue. It needs to get on track to heal properly, but he'll get padded up. And did everything we did in our practice yesterday. Looks good. Actually went Sunday as well, so he's fine.
Thanks.
Next to Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com. Nathan.
I just wanted to expound on Nicholas Petit-Frere. What's your favorite thing that he's bringing to this team right now?
One, he's just playing consistent. He's practicing well. He's very much matured. I think he's a young guy with a lot of hype. And I know around here you get so many stories, and you think everybody's going to walk in and be a primo player day one. I think Josh Myers and Wyatt Davis play offensive line about as good as most people in the country. And as I think 5-star type recruits or high fours, whatever they were based on the service, they really don't play year one and play minimal year two. I think Nick's the same way. He comes in really rated high. Everything should walk in and play offensive tackle day one. It takes a lot of time to all the communication, the calls, the techniques, the speed of the game, the mismatch. The defensive end against the offensive tackle is one of the biggest mismatches as far as skill set. And so for those guys to get comfortable and develop, so I just appreciate the way he's developed. He's found a much better way of working with Coach Mick and Kayla to eat properly and get his weight to where it needs to be. He was I wish I was on his diet his first couple of years because he could be on a 5-pound weight gain and lose 5. I'm the opposite of that. I gained 5. So, but he's gotten his weight where it needs to be. Very smart. He's smart enough that now he's, I think, learning how to think where he's not overcomplicating the game. He's starting to play with confidence. He's got a little look in his eye that was time to play. He flips a little switch, and he's got that little look of a guy that likes to get after it. So I've been impressed with the start he's been off to.
All right, we'll go next to Tim May from Lettermen Row. Tim.
Thank you very much, Mike. Kevin, when you watch Garrett Wilson play, like, for example, on the jet the other night, you would think a lot of receivers would rather take it all the way out to the edge and cut it up. He's got that little cut to him and stuff, which means he's got a little daring, whatever you want to call it, guts. I mean, what do you just see see about him that really excites you in that regard of the game? And do you notice those kind of things about a back before, or about a wide receiver before you put him in that position, so to speak?
Well, I think there are, and a good point there. I think there are some guys that are a little bit more comfortable running in high traffic areas or running through trash, where some guys are maybe a little more tentative or timid. You can see a lot of time on the jailbreak screen. Some guys are just a little bit more comfortable. You know, you might be fast, but you don't play fast in traffic. I see right now you're driving with your sunglasses on, so I know you're zigzagging in and out as you're going up and down the interstate right here. So be careful out there now, okay? And all as you're driving there, Tim, be careful.
I will.
But, you know, he had to go inside the other night because their defense set the edge. Jeremy actually did a nice job on that play of stretching and creating some space where then Garrett could put his toe on the ground, get back inside. Then he got back outside of Chris's block, so he ran it perfectly. It was blocked reasonably well at the point of attack, but he ran it perfectly. And as you do it sometimes, again, a lot of guys have playbooks. You can say run this play, but at the end of the day, Tim, some guys run some plays well. Garrett has a knack of running that play well, or like you say, putting his toe on the ground and not afraid to stick it up in there. And that being said, I think his coaches, Coach Day and Coach Hartline, the guys like that, they're deciding who gets what touches. Those you just play to the strength of the player. Garrett has the ability to and the confidence to do that in his running ability.
Thanks, man.
We got time for 2 more. We'll go with first we'll go with Tony Gerdeman and then with Joey Kaufman. Tony, you're up.
Kevin, as a play caller and a coordinator, given everything that Justin Fields can do, how much of a challenge is it for you to make sure that you maximize and use everything he can do and don't just rely on maybe what has worked in the past?
Well, I think, first of all, I think Coach Day and Coach Dennis will do a great job continuing to enhance and develop his skill set in the pocket and throwing. He can always extend plays and run plays. I think sometimes is when you're putting the offense together and in calling the games, I think you're just trying to be smart with, making sure you're taking care of him. So like the other night, we're doing some things in protection. We were trying to chip the edges and help our tackles with our tight ends a couple times where running backs are trying to help, not only responsible for a blitz, but also trying to help that tackle so that pocket stays clean, your quarterback stays upright. We got him sacked twice tonight, and really we only had one communication issue that led to the last sack we had, where we didn't get it identified properly between Justin and the O-line. So I think the key thing is maybe not trying to be, to me, if you, I've been a part of sport too. You have a great player and you start worrying about the great player getting the stats. When you start worrying about a great player getting stats, you forget what you need to do to win the game. And that's, you play physical, you take care of the ball, you take care of the quarterback, you score touchdowns in the scoring zone. You're great in conversions. So we got to play to Justin's strength. And Coach Day is brilliant, and Corey with how they'll develop him and play to strengths. But we got to play to what's best for the offense to win the game. And every week it's hard to win the game. And I think the key thing we got to come back to is everything we're doing is making sure, as talented as all these individuals are, and the question earlier was, how about the guys that make the sacrifices? Everyone's making the ultimate sacrifice, and even as coaches do what's right to win the game. And if we keep winning the game, the season will go the way we'd like for it to go. And I think then individually, a lot of those individuals will get what they want at the end. But right now, I think we got to keep putting it together on what's best to attack the situation, attack the defense, the scoring situation, the score zone, the down and distance, minimize risk and reward for your quarterback, but do what it takes to play high-end football, great offense, and win the game.
Thank you.
Right, and last question for today, we'll go to Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch. Joey.
Kevin, when Wyatt opted back in for this season, what was the biggest, what would you say would be the biggest impact he gave for your offense? It's kind of maybe harder for us to evaluate O lineman. But what's the biggest effect that he had on coming back and for you guys collectively?
Yeah, great question, because one, he's a great player, so he's a great player back, but internally, he's kind of, especially for the big guy, he's one of the juice guys of the offense. He plays very hard, he plays very tough, but he brings a little bit of energy. He brings a little bit of voice. He's a guy that when he talks, and not that he's a guy in the game that's out there talking smack to the opponent, but when it's time to stand in front of our team and talk as a player and as a coach, you appreciate what that guy's saying and the value it has on the team. He's one of the best verbalizers on our team and standing in front of our team and articulating the way we want to play, how we want to play. So I just think he brings a great voice and a voice that people listen to, because when he talks, our guys listen, and he brings a lot of fire and energy to his play. He brings a lot of passion with his energy when he talks to our football team. I think it has a huge impact.
Coach Wilson, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it.